Okay. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Dr. Miller. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those in the other parts of the world. Um, we are here to wait. I am very much honored to present a webinar workshop on bringing stories of the world to local readers and listeners. So let me start. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Eric Miller for this opportunity to present this webinar workshop as part of the Chennai Storytelling Festival of 2024. So here's the outline of the workshop. So first we'll start with a lecture, and then we'll have close reading activity, and then we'll have breakout session. But in this case, since there's just a few of us, we'll probably do it as a whole group. And then after that, we'll do reflections. As per the lecture, we'll be visiting these concepts, world literature. We'll talk about universals and particulars. And then we'll get to know these methods or techniques in telling stories from foreign countries. So we have close reading, exploring themes, and taking snapshots. First, before we go to the discussion, let's try to define first world literature. So I'd like to ask from our participants their uh, view on what world literature is. May I request the participants to write their
Okay.
yes,
You want us
ma'am?
to write? So, as far as I understand, my understanding goes, everything that is written worldwide is world literature.
That's right. How about the others? Do you have any opinion or thoughts about world literature? What are the characteristics that you can think of?
Basically, I feel that pertaining to a particular region, the
Okay.
literature which is written uh, locally, that is brought into the world scenario.
Oh, that from national literature. Are you
Yes,
referring to that?
yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a combination of these literatures coming from different countries all over the world. Okay. Uh, before just I can relate to those definitions of world literature, and in fact, before I took so much interest in world literature, I also had the same view that world literature is simply the collection of literature from different countries all over the world. But in fact, okay, this is what world literature, the concept of world literature means. This term was coined by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a German writer, and he referred to world literature as the spread of literature across the globe. So he's not referring to the individual literary pieces from different countries, but he's also referring to the spread of these pieces of literature across the world. Okay. According to him, in his letter to a certain Peter Eckermann, national literature now is a rather unmeaning term. The epoch of world literature is at hand, and everyone must strive to hasten its approach. Do you quite agree with that? Well, I believe so. So as you can see here, there are a lot of factors that led to this definition of literature. So, starting from word of mouth, okay, our folk tales were told to other people through word of mouth, and then came the print technology or the writing technology, and then transportation, which did not only transport or move people out these books from one place to another, but also move the people okay, to different countries. And then we have internet. And then the newest one, we have artificial intelligence. Okay. So what else do we expect? Okay, there's going to be a lot more to expect, and there's no choice for us but to see world literature as the spread of literary pieces across countries. So, in a modern sense, this is the definition of literature. So, literature. So, it refers to literary works that are translated into multiple languages and circulated to an audience outside the country of origin. So, I highlighted here two terms. Okay, they are both essential to call it world literature, but what's more crucial is the translation. Okay, why do you think so? Do you have any idea? What is so crucial about translation?
See,
Because
the
we don't know all the languages. If it's translated, we can
Yes,
read it.
And
We are
exactly. So just the number of languages, just the differences, the variety of these languages already transform a piece of literature into a new one. Okay, so there are a lot of things that happens in that piece of literature just by translation.
At
And talking about
I
translation,
just want to make a note that, of course, in the present day, English is functioning as a global language, but it might not always be that way. And now with
yes,
artificial intelligence, it might be very easy to translate any piece of literature into any language very quickly.
that's right.
So
That
it
is why nothing is impossible nowadays as far as moving these pieces of literature across countries.
Mhm.
Thank you for that, Eric. So, talking about translation, there are two approaches in translation. We have literary translation and translated literature. So, in a way, they have similarities as to the process that they have to undergo. But let's just differentiate these two. Okay, when we talk about literary translation, it's the faithful translation of the original national work. So, as much as possible, we protect the diversity of these languages and cultures embedded in those literary works. Translated literature, on the other hand, is the creative rewriting, okay, but still based on the original text. Okay. Here, um, those who pursue this type of translation believes that um, as literature moves across countries or across boundaries of culture and language, it is really transformed into a different cultural artifact. So in our approach to world literature, here's the basic thing that we have to consider. There are similarities and there are also differences. Okay, in literature or literary analysis, we call the similarities as literary universals and the differences as literary particulars. What I mean by similarities is that you find whatever is described in the text or in the piece of literature similar to your own uh, world, to your own context. And when we say difference, we mean what you see in the text or in the story is different from what you have in your own world. Okay. Literary universals, so it could be any element, theme, or structure that that recur across these pieces of literature from different countries. I highlighted here this is specifically or especially true to genetically and aerially unrelated traditions because genetically that means there are two countries that uh, were not likely influenced did not likely influence each other in terms of genetics, they still find universals in their literary pieces. So there are still similarities. Aerially unrelated, okay? We all know before that once our world is composed of places that are too close to each other, okay? But now we have divided. So those countries that are least likely to have been close to each other before, okay, they still find universals among them. Okay, so those are the things that we need to um, look at. So examples of literary universals, your archetypal characters. Okay, when we say hero, we all know what a hero means. We all know that it is someone who saves people from bad things. Okay, themes of love and death. We are all familiar with this. Symbolism of light and darkness. So these are just examples of universals. Okay, and it depends on your background, whether you will find it as a universal or as a particular. Okay, literary particulars. These are elements that are unique only to a specific work of literature. So it includes marginals. Examples, author's style. Okay, we have to take notice of how the author uses his language or his or her language, his tone. Okay, historical context. So these are the events, societal norms, everything that is local to the origin country. And unique symbols or motifs. When we say unique symbols of motifs or motifs, these are the symbols that have a different meaning as compared to how you see it in your own context. So let's say flower. If in your place it means love, then it might have a different meaning somewhere else. So those are the things that we need to take note of. So how do we tell these stories, these foreign stories? Okay. How do we hasten our approach to world literature? We do cross-cultural storytelling. Okay. So that is to bridge gaps between different cultures, foster mutual understanding, appreciation, and connection. So these are the benefits as to why we need to go progress to world literature and do cross-cultural storytelling. So for today, we'll discuss these methods, okay, or skills that are necessary for doing cross-cultural storytelling. So we have close reading, exploring themes, okay, taking snapshots. So I believe the most familiar with this is exploring themes. We already know what exploring themes is or what themes are. Okay, so let's discuss them one by one. Close reading. Okay. Anyone who has an idea about close reading, can you type on the message box if you have? What are your thoughts? What do you think of close reading? Anyone who to our participants? How about you, Eric? What is your idea about close reading?
Well, it seems it's reading when trying to pay close attention, special attention to the details, and try to remember the details.
Okay, exactly. Okay, close reading. It's like reading to understand the context, right? And how do you understand the context? You pay close attention to the details, as Eric has mentioned. So it is like examining a text with a magnifying glass. So we pay close attention to every detail. Okay, if it says apple, so why did the writer or why did the author use apple instead of let's say mango? Okay, if the setting is in the city, then why and not in the urban I mean in the rural areas? Okay, so we have to pay close attention to the words, sentences, okay, to the elements, okay, for us to be able to understand the deeper meaning, okay,
When it
of
comes to
of the
working
story.
with stories, um, I often invite students to make a note of the emotions that the different characters are feeling at different times, and their motivations and their inner thoughts as imagined by the reader.
Right, that's correct. And in taking note of the emotions, we'll look not only at the words that they utter, but also in their actions, how it they act as described by the author. So those are the things that we need to pay attention to in close reading. So in close reading, we have to remember that there are no details in the text that is there by accident. So there is always a reason as to why that the author used this particular detail. Okay, and that is the thing that we need to unlock. Okay, there's no such thing as one true meaning. So we based on our research on what that element or detail mean, then we may have different interpretations or meaning. Okay. Some tips for close reading: we have to be wary of literary universals. Okay. We have to be able to find we have to be able to resonate with what we read from the text. Okay. And then we have to research anything that is unfamiliar. So let us not anything that is not familiar to us or sounds odd, anything that is different from what we have, okay, in our own community, let's say, okay, then we have to find out. Okay. A close reading should never be the first reading of a text. Okay. Why? Because we have to be able to have an idea of the whole text first before we get into the detail. Okay. Although this is the ideal, this is talking about the ideal setup. Okay. But what if you're only allowed to read it once? Then you have to be sensitive, extra sensitive to the details, the different details. Okay. Okay, let's have a short activity here, just to practice close reading. Okay. Can can everyone see the text?
Yes.
Okay. So let's read together and then please type on the so I have two sets here. Please type on the message box the details or words or phrases that you think we need to pay attention to when reading the text. By the way, this is um the exposition part of the tale of two brothers. It's an ancient Egyptian tale. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a few minutes. As soon as you see some details that you find interesting, as far as the goal of close reading is concerned, then please type it on the box, on the message box. Okay, the story states that, let me read what we have here in the message box from Eric. The story states that there are certain responsibilities, duties, and roles for a younger brother and other ones for an older brother. Yes, that's right. Okay. And I think this is a universal, something that we can all relate to. From Professor Jayavelu, two brothers, younger brother, Bata, elder brother Anpu, they have father son kind of relationship, right? Okay. The work is divided between two brothers. Okay. How about okay, from Jayanti, right? How about something which you think is different from something which you want to understand more?
Well, I must say that I immediately realized there were certain responsibilities for a younger brother and certain ones for the older brother, but at first reading, I did not absorb exactly what those roles were. I mean, I could read it, but it did not, those details did not register in my mind so easily.
Oh, okay, how about the next one? Okay, later I will this tale, by the way, or this story I told, this is one of the stories that I tell to my students, because we had before we had I taught Afro Asian literature, so this is one of my favorites in terms of close reading. So later on I will show my personal output for the close reading. Okay, how about the next part? Can can we do the same for the next part?
Why are some words in brackets?
Okay, I'm not really sure why. This is a translated work. I think the original is in hieroglyphics.
Hmm,
So I'm not really sure why those words are in bracket.
okay.
So this is an example of um an intense translation in terms of language, because from a different form of writing and different language, it was turned into this type of writing and in English. The brothers work in unison. Okay, now let me share my my own close reading output with this. Okay. So once upon a time, there were two brothers having the same mother and the same father. So here, I highlighted same mother and same father because I find it odd why the author had to specify that they are from the same mother. Okay, because the normal thing is that, of course, um, children are normally from the same mother and the same father. Okay, no offense to those who have different mother or different mother, but I highlighted this because I see I have to investigate. I want to investigate whether this is a normal thing. Okay, during that time that this tale was written. Did anyone get that as well? Do you somehow
Yes,
agree,
the
or do you
fact that
find it?
yes, the fact that the writer has to say same mother and same father implies that in many cases, brothers do not have the same mother or do not have the
Oh
same father.
yes, I'm sorry. So it's the other way around. So yes, that's right. Okay, now let me go to the next paragraph. As for Anpu, that's the elder, he possessed a house and a wife, and his younger brother was associated with him after the manner of a son. So this is something that we can, I believe, many of us can relate to. Okay, Anpu the elder, who made clothes for him. Okay, so why did the author need to specify that Anpu was making clothes for him? Okay, is it a norm in Egypt, in ancient Egypt in particular? Next one. Okay, what do you think about this?
It wanted to, maybe the author wants us to know that those were the times when cloth was already made, they were wearing clothes, so that we know exactly what era it was, what age it was.
Oh, on the previous one? Oh, yes. So is this something that you do in your country? The
See,
eldest, maybe
yeah,
what he's
the eldest for some time has to take care of the one, younger one. So this may be a norm.
okay. So maybe across countries we have different ways of how the eldest takes care of the younger siblings.
You know,
Okay, how about this one?
it reminds me how, see, I'm from the USA, but I live in India and I'm married to an Indian lady. And she gives clothing to like the lady who works in our house and a man who works for us. Every Christmas, she gives them, you know, a shirt or some other piece of clothing as a gift. And so this is a custom that I never saw in the USA, but it seems it's very popular in India to give workers clothing at a special time of the year.
So it's either we it's not totally present in our culture, or we have different similar, we have similar ways of how these things happen, like how the eldest takes care of the youngest, I mean the younger ones. Okay, next one. How about this one?
Well, I'm not sure that the translation is correct when it says God's virility, uh, because virility does not connect with me directly to producing a perfect man. You see, virility means strength, and it doesn't correlate directly to perfection for me.
However, Eric, I'm thinking maybe it means that because of his strength and he could work hard enough in the fields, and then that hard work led him to becoming, a perfect person.
But it's not the man who has virility, it's the God who has virility. And that
Sure,
virility is responsible for the perfection of the man.
right. So having a God's virility in him allowed him to work hard enough, or maybe harder than other men, in order to become the perfect man.
Okay, so you're thinking God's virility went into the man, but it doesn't really say that.
No, not went into, but it's almost like saying he was almost as virile as a god.
Yeah, we have to suppose that, but
Yeah, I have to
it
suppose
doesn't
that.
quite say it.
Yeah, I have to suppose that.
Mhm.
So you may, in this part, you may
And
ask,
sorry to interrupt.
what's a perfect man for them? Maybe if they are talking about strength, the reason for that is because most of the men, they are, um, they can be regarded as perfect if they can do these things. They can work in the field, okay, and then they can do a lot of difficult tasks. Okay? So we have to investigate this. Okay. Next one.
Sorry
Okay.
to interrupt.
Um,
I have a
Yes.
doubt. Here, this God's virility, the physical part is said, as a perfect man there, as a perfect man, or the work he does. Indeed, his younger brother, then we have a doubt here. There was none like him in the entire land, for a God's virility was in him. Is a physical feature, or the way, some other feature is explained.
I'm sorry, Jayanti, your audio is not so clear. Can you hear her?
Jayanti ma'am, you faded in the middle. Could you just repeat your question one more time, please?
See here, he is called a perfect man, the younger brother. Are you able to hear? Or I'll write in
Yes,
the
we
middle.
can hear you. Go ahead.
It's the, see, God's virility here, the physical aspect of the person or any other quality is explained here.
So my understanding, as far as from my take on it, was the aspect may not be necessarily what he looked like, but the God's virility would be that he had energy. He had such high energy. It was almost godlike energy, and that made him very hardworking. And the hard work is what then categorized him as being perfect. That's my take on these lines. Please, I'm not sure if everyone agrees, but
I doubt the accuracy of that virility word in the translation, because virility also means the ability to impregnate a female.
true.
So I'm not sure the translator got that right. I have doubt.
Okay. Well, in the later part of the story, by the way, there are more things to happen. Okay, so that may actually explain why they describe it as similar to God's him as having God's virility. Um, but the point is, for this one, we take notice of that. Okay, if we see that it, well, it could be also true that there's we have to check whether it's properly translated. Okay? That's why, as much as possible, if we can access the original text, okay, and we can decode it, we can translate it ourselves, then we can also do that. Can it imply ability to cultivate as they can cultivate them? Yes. It may also imply that. So again, we take notice of these details and then we research. Okay, whether we have some hypothesis in our minds as to why these details are or why these what these details mean, but we have just to be sure, we can research it. Okay? Okay, let me move on to this part. It says here at plowing time, his elder brother told him, "Have a team of oxen made ready for us for plowing, for the soil has emerged." Okay, this part, okay, I highlighted it because at first I don't understand, okay, what he meant by soil has emerged. But after doing the research, I found out that it could be that these farms or the farmland is near the river and it's water fed. So if it's high tide on the river, okay, uh, the locals there will just have to wait for the soil to for the water to go down, and once the soil has emerged, that's the time that they
Well,
can do the plowing.
that's the easiest one to do at all because it's Egypt. Egypt's whole planting season revolved around the flooding of the Nile.
Right.
I
Okay.
mean, that's not
And
even something that needs to be highlighted because that's the whole basis of Egypt's wealth.
Right, for Egypt, right? However, if we live in a country where there are no there we are far, or we live in a place where we're far from um source of water like this river, and that doesn't happen, okay, we might question the story as to what it means. Okay, but this is actually something um that happened uh centuries ago, when the civilizations from different areas, from different parts of the world has started. All of those started near rivers, right?
Yes,
Is that right?
as far as I know, yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So we can also so these details, these are something that we can use to engage or to catch the interest of our listeners and readers. Okay, so that's close reading. Exploring themes. Okay, this is another technique that we can use. We are already familiar, I guess, with themes. So exploring themes means it could be like this diagram. So imagine yourself being this funnel. Okay, so you filter themes that are familiar to you, okay, to your country, to your community, okay, and then you bring those themes in your own context, and then from there you can um, either make a creative translate, or make a translated text which is very near to the original. So here are examples of themes. Okay, exploring themes. Let's take a look at this um cartoon, this movie. Okay, so what themes can we draw from this movie? Although this is not the written one, right? Um, so has everyone watched Beauty and the Beast? Yes. Okay. So we have here Beauty and the Beast. We can actually get the theme right from the title. Okay. Oh, oh, you haven't watched it. It's a nice movie. For the theme, it explores the theme of looking into the inner beauty of a person or of someone. Okay. So it's a common theme. Okay. And I'm sure if you watch this, you can identify or you can see that theme because you can relate to it. Okay, so that's for exploring themes. Taking snapshots. Okay. Snapshots, this is something, taking snapshots, this is something that I only made up. Okay, because I think lots of local versions of the story are available. That's right. And I believe Beauty and the Beast is also an adaptation from an ancient story. I I think from a myth. I mean, something like that. Okay, it was also an adaptation. The Wilted Heart caught my hand, uh, my attention. Okay. So, okay, so taking snapshots. Okay, these are interesting stories, mini stories, or scenes that we can take from bigger tale. Okay, especially if we want to bring down a very large narrative, okay, from a foreign country, okay, and we don't have the time um to share everything, all of it, to our audience, then we can take snapshots or scenes from it. So mini story or scenes that we can recreate. Okay, so we have to select parts that the local audience can connect with. Okay, let me share this excerpt from Daedalus and Icarus. It's from Greek mythology. So here we have Daedalus, the father, and then Icarus was the son. Okay, Daedalus was a craftsman, and uh he created wings made of wax. Okay, so they can use it to escape from a place, from a certain place. Okay, and this excerpt, let me read it. With these wings, you will fly like a bird, Daedalus told his son. But be careful. Make sure you do not fly too close to the sun. If you do, the wax that holds the feathers together will melt. Okay. Uh, the reason why I'm sharing this is because uh, in the Philippines, here in the Philippines, we have a similar folk tale. Okay. Munting Gamo-Gamo or Little Moth. Okay. So it's about a mother and a child moth. Okay. And then the child was warned not to go too close to the lamp, but still he was hard-headed and went too close, and then eventually he burned his wings. So I'm not sure if this is a snapshot from Daedalus and Icarus, because this one, Daedalus and Icarus, is an older myth. Okay, so I'm not really sure if it's is it a snapshot, but just to illustrate what a snapshot is, because Daedalus and Icarus, this scene is just a small part, a small scene from the bigger story. Okay. Taking snapshots from Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. So, an example. In Indian mythology, Hanuman goes near the sun and was saved. Okay, so there's also um a similar story in Indian mythology. And in this case, he was saved. But for Icarus, they were not saved. Okay, same is true with our own folk tale. Thank you for that, Jayanti. Okay, Romeo and Juliet. The balcony scene where they did this very long conversation of courtship. Okay, so this is something that we can take from Romeo and Juliet. Okay, we have the option to take it as is, share it as is, or we also have the option to recreate it. Okay, so ideas for recreating it, we can recreate it such that our youth of today can relate to it. Okay. So the different ways of courtship nowadays.
When you say taking snapshots, do you mean visual snapshots or some other type of snapshot?
When I say snapshots, I mean scenes, the scenes or mini stories that are embedded in
But
the
the
bigger
scene,
narrative.
but the scenes in a written piece of work are in words. So are you saying we should copy and keep like a file of those words, or we should find an illustration of it?
Oh no, we should keep we should check the written piece. Okay, I'm only showing this because I'm referring to that part, that app where you can see the balcony scene, where which holds the balcony scene. So we are still gonna refer to the text, the written text.
Yeah, some a method that I've used over the years when teaching is I encourage the students to write or copy, if they have computers, a sentence that they found very interesting in the text, and then to rewrite that sentence on in a different page or paste it into a different file, and then write a short commentary about why they found that interesting. So it's in effect
Yes.
taking snapshots of or taking sections of the written text and adding their commentary.
Yes, that's right. So this is just you take snapshots, and then from there, this applies to bigger stories, especially if you cannot tackle the whole story, then you can take snapshots. And that's also a very interesting activity, Eric, that one that you mentioned. So you ask your students to take note of the things that they find interesting. Those are also snapshots.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Cinderella. Okay. Although I'm using movies as examples here, this is just to illustrate. We can always apply this to written text. Okay. Cinderella, you can find a lot of snapshots. Let's say this one, makeover, magical makeover. Okay. It has been used and reused in different stories. Okay. This one, doing their task, trying to save Cinderella from the locked room. So they are against all odds, okay? But still they managed um to open the door with the key. Okay. This part, um destiny. Okay. It was the glass slippers was tried on by the sister, by the stepsister, but it did not fit, and it was only Cinderella who fits it, was able to fit in it. Sorry. So destiny. Okay. So it's like taking snapshots. It's similar to exploring the themes in stories. It's just that for themes, we are focused on the themes, on the ideas and topics. Okay. While for snapshots, we are really focused on the events that happen in the story. Okay. And with those events, we can share those to our local audience. Okay, let's do this. Since there's only a few of us, we'll do this all together. So to bring stories from the world or from different country to our local audience or local readers and listeners, step one, we bring down the story to us. Okay, so we have two options: explore themes. Okay, we can explore themes. We are more focused on the themes, or we can take snapshots. Okay, or we can also, just for this workshop, we'll have these two options. Okay, but of course, we can always bring down the whole story as it is. Then step two is to decide, how do you want to tell it? Do you want to tell the story in its faithful translation? Or do you want to make your own? Do you want to recreate the story? Okay. So we can choose from these stories, but let me show first these guide questions. So we'll answer this. I started with, and then you tell whether you're exploring the theme, or you did it by exploring the theme or taking a snapshot. Okay. And then in our place or time blank, you mentioned similarities. What do you find? Do you find something similar in the story? And then next, I will create blank. Which part or which details of the story would you want to recreate? And then, how do you end it? I want to end it with, okay, okay. Maybe let's use this very short folk tale. I shorten it so we can do it with a limited period of time, with a limited time left. So first we have to read. Okay, one day in a small village. Okay, you can read it silently. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I think I will type in the guide, the guide questions or, oh, sorry. Yeah, let me go back to the story. Okay, so um okay, so anyone?
Can I try?
Jayanti?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes.
See, we can choose the beginning. I started with a small village in, local chain names, also local names. So I can take the story, forward the story.
Okay, okay. So you want to recreate it by changing it to a local name, right? Yes. Actually, this one tamad, one is like um what do you call that? It's a local name in the Philippines, and tamad is in English it means lazy. Okay. So you can adapt and the story and recreate. Okay. How do you want it to end, Jayanti?
Different ending. I don't want this boy to lose the fruit he was waiting for.
You don't want him to get it. Okay. So that's teaching him a lesson. Okay. Yes, yes. He in this story he didn't also get it. Okay, but there's another character that came in to get it. Are you also planning to bring in some other characters?
No, I think she said she wants the boy to get it. So maybe
Oh, she wants the boy to get it.
so
What's
yeah.
want to end the story with this? Oh, you want to get the fruit. Okay. Okay. So what's the twist? Yes.
Hmm?
Okay. Let
I
me just
wanted
read what.
to, yeah. So what I was
Punam-
thinking, I would have brought that girl in and together they would have taken the fruit and shared it. That would be my ending. The desire was there in him, but the other one was clever and smart. So she took the leap and she took the fruit. But together they would do it in my story and they would eat it, share it.
Would one be able to learn a lesson? Would you teach him a lesson?
That was the lesson that in togetherness also you can, why
Oh,
teach
I
him a lesson?
see.
I think patience was also good. He thought, let it drop when it comes, when the time comes. Because for me, tamad didn't mean lazy, so I didn't understand he was lazy.
Oh, we have here from oh, new character can bring a natural. What do you mean? What do you mean, Jayanti, when we say natural element? Some maybe some other animal or so? I think okay, from Wangari race, I think I would want the boy to know why he didn't get the fruit. Okay, so you can also extend the story. Wind or rain. Okay, from Jayanti. Yes. Okay, anything more that you can think of? Okay. For natural element, maybe we can also have some worms in the guava, in the fruit. Okay. And instead of while he's waiting for it for a long time, the the worm has already devoured on the fruit. Any more ideas? Okay, thank you for all your sharings. Um, so let's do a reflection. Okay. What would you most likely do and why when you read foreign stories? Okay. Are you going to preserve the original? Are you going to recreate from the original? Or both? Okay, and why? What are your thoughts? Both depending on the audience. So we have, since we are bringing a foreign story to a local audience, we have to be sensitive to our audience, to our audience. There. So, right. Okay. Depending, it always depends on the audience. Okay. So that ends the workshop. Let me go back to this phrase from our poster. There's more to an ocean than fish, and there's also more to storytelling than stories. Okay? We have to investigate, we have to dig deeper into the meanings of the elements of the story. We have to get into the culture, okay, and be able to tell the stories of this culture. Also, the age group, right? Okay, so we have to adjust everything based on the age group. Okay, we might need to adjust the languages as well. Okay, so that ends our workshop for today. Thank you all. Thank you to each and every one of you for participating. Thank you, Eric.
Sure. Let's see, let's go off of the screen share for a moment.
How do I?
There we are. And let's see. I'll go to gallery mode.
Go there.
There
Go
we
there.
are. So there are 9 of us here, but only 4 of us have our cameras on, or 5 of us have our cameras on. But that was a wonderful workshop. Thank you very much. Do you sometimes give activities to participants after you give the presentation?
I'm
Mary?
sorry.
Sometimes do you give activities to the participants after the lecture?
No, no, it's they can practice what we have learned in their own fields, okay? Whether they are a parent, a teacher, or they in their own organizations, they can um go ahead and apply what they have learned from this workshop.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone want to say anything about what you picked up in this workshop?
Can I?
Go ahead.
See, I have learned that a simple story from any language, any country, we can adapt and
You go there.
deliver it to our audience, recreate, and then they change the ending, whatever. And so there are a number of stories anywhere, so we can pick and then recreate it. I learned this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's a lot of stories that we can explore. Okay. And also there are means now. There are a lot of means that we can take advantage of. The internet, we have artificial intelligence to translate. Okay. You might want to take advantage of those.
Oh, go ahead, Poonam.
Thank you, Eric. What I understood was the close reading, you know. In that, I felt we could actually work a lot with children. There are certain things that we read and we take them for granted because we understand. Whereas if a debate is raised, or if we talk about, like, for example, they were children of the same mother and same father, there were so many such sentences which we just read as adults and we think it's good enough, we've understood. But there was so much more you explored between the lines, which was something very interesting. And I think that can be used very much in the classrooms with children and adults, the close reading. Thank you so much.
Yes, the workshop has reminded me that we don't just need verbal translation, we need cultural translation. Some ways that this comes up for me, as mentioned, I'm from the USA, I'm from New York City, but I've lived in India for many years and I've taught in India. So for example, in New York, my old home, which is in the Northern Hemisphere, and in Europe, people talk about winter, spring, summer, and fall. Fall is also autumn. Winter is especially December and January. Spring is after that, especially March, April, May. Summer is June, July, August. And then fall is September, October, maybe November. So in South India, where I live, that doesn't make any sense because here in South India, the hot time, which people call summer, is especially March, April, May, which is spring according to the New York system, and then we have a rainy season around October and maybe other times too, but there is no cold season. So I feel it's not fair to young people to tell them stories that involve winter, spring, summer, and fall here, or at least it has to be explained that that refers, maybe in North India they have winter, spring, summer, and fall. I know around New Delhi it gets very cold sometimes, but and in the hill stations here in South India it gets very cold, but I'm not sure what seasons. Anyway, that is one area that I am careful about and try to translate culturally. Another is this thing about blonde hair. You know, in many fairy tales, they say the princess has golden hair. And these stories come from Europe, where, you know, blonde hair is more common. And also the golden hair, I think, is a symbol for like gold itself. It's a symbol of purity or something. But I don't like to mention it here in India because everybody has black hair, and I think it's kind of racist to glorify yellow hair. So I tend to take out the yellow hair when I'm telling fairy tales here. So those are two
Well,
examples.
Eric,
Yeah, go ahead.
in fairness, though,
Mhm.
you're talking about a specific group of European fairy tales.
Yeah,
Because I'm Celtic. Our
okay,
fairy tales, what you usually find is hair that's described as black as a raven's wing.
okay.
You don't find a lot of golden hair in Celtic stories. So I think a lot of times it depends on where your story comes from in Europe, whether that's actually true or not.
Yes, yes.
So there's a lot of variation there.
And yes, totally true. And also, I think in parts of Europe where they do glorify gold hair, it's related to the alchemical tradition, where in those parts of Europe there was a scientific, semi-scientific tradition of trying to mix metals together to produce gold, which had a spiritual context also, that gold is some kind of spiritual high thing. Um, so yeah, that's interesting to hear that in Celtic culture, gold is not mentioned and glorified as a color of hair. I suppose they in Celtic culture there is the gold medal, which is considered valuable, right?
We still consider gold valuable. Now, like with me, if I was telling Celtic stories to an Indian audience, the thing that would be probably the hardest thing to translate isn't the hair color, but where we refer to skin color as white as snow.
That's
I'm going
another.
to assume that not a lot of people in Chennai have a lot of experience with snow.
Well, this is you've opened a big can of worms here, because in India and in many places in the world where people do have darker skin, in the advertising and in the movies, even in those countries, white skin is glorified. So it's a whole racist problem, and one of the results is that there's a trillion-dollar cosmetics industry in these countries of selling products that supposedly whiten the skin, and it does a lot of damage to the skin. So
Unfortunately for us, we only do it because we're all fish belly white.
yeah, you're white naturally, or even pink.
But in Celtic stories, you have a tradition of skin as white as snow and cheeks
Yes.
as crimson red as fresh blood upon the snow.
Yeah, so what do you do?
That's hard to translate to people in southern areas.
Yeah, it's hard to translate what that's all about, but I mean, there is such racism, even among members of the community, that like when a child is born, if they have very dark skin, the parents worry they won't be able to get the child married. So it's an issue which we as storytellers and teachers may not want to, contribute to the continuation of this glorification of white skin. So the question is, what can we do about it? If it comes up in a story, like you said, what do we do? Do we change it? Do we omit it?
To me, it depends on my audience. The
Mhm.
color of the description of the characters is up to me to change. That's not the bones of the story. To me, that's the glitz. Those are the things I can alter. So if I'm telling to an Indian audience, I can describe them as an Indian rather than a Celt. I don't think that I don't think that necessarily alters the story.
Mhm. I agree. Did somebody want to say something? No?
Eric, I think it also depends on the audience. So um and on the intention of telling the story. So I think we have to be able to tell these stories without putting too much highlight on, although on the difference being too different, but it's we have to highlight on the difference as being something that is unique to that culture.
Yeah, but if you say, she was the fairy tale princess was so beautiful and was so good, and that is associated with her gold hair and white skin, that's a terrible racist brainwash. But in the European stories that do have, the female characters with golden hair and white skin, that golden hair and white skin, that external beauty is associated with internal moral goodness. So
That reminds me of a lesson way back in elementary. We had this book, and we have pictures of um, not really pictures, but drawings of different different nationalities, and they have different colors, different shape of hair. We have wavy hair, straight hair, skin color. Okay, so I think it always depends on the student whether they are ready for it. Okay.
all right, so then I feel if we have to discuss this with the students. If we give them a story
Yes.
that glorifies golden hair and white skin, we have to say this is this is from a country where a lot of people have that, and moreover, these things are being used as a symbol of moral goodness. So what would you say in India, that she had beautiful black hair and a beautiful rich color of her skin? We have to discuss it, I think, with our students.
We can also tone down on glorifying these. We can focus instead of in on inner beauty instead of the outside.
But the fairy tales,
Um,
the stock and trade of fairy tales is that external objects symbolize internal qualities of people.
so that's the thing about fairy tales. But let's say for Barbie, I think they already have brown skin. Barbies.
Uh-huh. And do they have
So I
Barbies that are not so skinny now?
No, not so fair.
think there's none yet, but maybe in the future.
Mhm. I didn't see the Barbie movie.
Miss Universe, by the way, it's there are already Miss Universe is not only for single women, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is evolving.
Oh, I
Okay.
saw in the news a transgender person had won a female beauty contest. I forget which one. Someone who was born with male anatomy and had transitioned to being female. That person won a female beauty contest. And there's controversy about this, of course. The biggest controversy is about those kind of people playing women's sports. Some people feel it's not fair for them to play women's sports. And yeah. All right, great. So this was a very interesting and stimulating session. Thank you very much. And so now we'll stop the recording.